The moment the Luka trade was made, the world erupted, calling it the worst trade of all time. Yes, worse than the Paul George to OKC trade, in which the Thunder are still controlling the Clippers' picks as we speak after a championship, with their draft selection SJ becoming a back-to-back regular season MVP. However, even though we're not even half a decade separated from that trade, I'd say I'd rather be in the position of the Dallas Mavericks, the team who traded away the superstar, over the Los Angeles Lakers, the team who was gifted him. It always starts with money and by extension the team's payroll through value contracts and type of rookie deals, and that's exactly where the Mavericks already separate themselves from the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm not sure I mentioned the Mavericks versus Lakers video, so this will be the last one I mention them here. When we have young core for young core and rookie contracts for rookie contracts, the Lakers have Dalton Connect, Adu Thiero, and the recently drafted Cameron Carr. I'm high on the last two's athletic wings with defensive upside, but it just slightly pales in comparison to what the Mavericks have. 2 words, 1 name. Cooper Flagg, the 19-year-old who reportedly just grew from 6'9 to 6'11. Having that caliber of a talent on a rookie contract for 3 more years is an absolute luxury, giving the Mavericks an incredible opportunity to surround him with a flood of talent, and the Mavericks clearly have a type when it comes to the guys they add to the roster. Anyway, before getting carried away with the Mavericks did post-draft, in the 2026 NBA draft, they controversially picked up Maurice Johnson Jr. at number 9 out of Michigan, while trading up for Sergio De La Rey, who played overseas at Valencia. The reason that Maurice Johnson draft selection was deemed controversial was due to the Mavericks' new head coach entering next season, Dusty May, the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines last season. Even if he was injured throughout last season, the Mavericks still have 1 more year of Derek Lively on his rookie deal. They don't actually have Max Christie on a rookie deal anymore, but for the level of contribution he's given them so far, I'd definitely consider it one. If you've been keeping up with the NBA media recently, you recognize I purposely left out one of the rookie contracts, because I want to talk about the last one a bit more extensively. Not only do the Mavericks have 2 prior number 1 overall picks in Flagg and Kyrie, they now also have Zachary Sachet from the proclaimed worst draft class of recent memory. This does come at the expense of Ryan Nembhard, which is definitely a disappointment for me since I actually did think he looked really good as Cooper Flagg last season. With the first new start in a new role, I don't expect Ricochet to be this insanely offensive engine who can always be relied upon to give you 20 points on any defense in any night. Not only will he just probably not have enough shots given to him with the name joining from the draft and returning from injury, but that's just simply not his role. What is his role is very simple, but a role needed filling for every contending roster. A utility 3-and-D wing. Ricochet hasn't hit 36% of the season yet, but his shooting mechanics and threat is definitely awaiting a breakout, which I predict will be next season. Not only is he a reliable spot-up shooter, but he has shown the capability to shoot the ball off the move. And, speaking of scoring the ball off the move, Ricochet is just simply a smart basketball player in general, with a chunk of his scoring coming from cutting to the paint and moving off the ball to alleviate pressure off of his teammates and get easier looks closer to the rim. Not only does he have some solid acceleration, but his lengthy frame enables longer strides in defensive playmaking. To extend my point of his frame enabling defense, let's speak on how I think he contributes to the defensive end. Ricochet is someone who is capable of sliding in front of the ball, suffocating jumpers, and walding off drives to the rim. While he does need to get a bit stronger and fill out his frame, considering he's not even 21 yet, I think he still has plenty of time to do so effectively. You can maybe even forget what I just said about his on-ball defense, because his off-ball defense is just as good as his off-ball scoring. Whether it's attacking from the ball handler's blind spots to pluck the ball away, sliding down to the rim to steal an entry pass, or rotating perfectly to suffocate the offense, Ricochet is just way too mobile and active to be ignored by playmakers looking to create offense for their teams. I think Ricochet's defense can even be maximized when you then put his defensive activity alongside the previously mentioned Max Christie, Cooper Flagg, Maurice Johnson Jr., and Derek Lively. That's not even mentioning the veterans on this team, and that's also where we begin to speak on some trade speculation. Beginning with the 2024 trade deadline pieces, we have PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. PJ is going to give you an extremely lengthy frame, energy, rebounding, and of course his calling card, which is his wing defense. Gafford is going to give you springy lob finishes, blocks at the rim, and physical play down low. Pivoting the timeline a bit, Najee Marshall is playing on an expiring contract this season, being a versatile driver and an underrated passer when that shot doesn't present itself. They also did recently involve themselves in a sign-and trade with Chris Middleton, acquiring Marcus Sasser at the expense of A.J. Johnson and a heavily protected first-rounder from Golden State, located in 2030. When your roster is full of wings, forwards, athletes, and offenders with the departure of guys like Brandon Williams and Marvin Bagley III, having a genuine guard besides De La Rey who can actually shoot at a respectable clip is 100% value on any team, especially for a roster like Dallas. Speaking of wings and forwards, going back to the point I was making at the beginning of the video, they also got Santi Aldama and that Chris Middleton sign and trade huge team deal. I'm not the biggest Aldama guy like some NBA fans are, but he's an average shooter with a high release point, some solid mobility for his size. Now we arrive at the biggest headline for the Dallas Mavericks coming into the 26-27 season, Uncle Drew, one of the 3 elite guards returning to professional basketball this upcoming season. Kyrie was playing arguably his best basketball in the 24-25 season without Luka Doncic, replaced with Anthony Davis. But for him to get injured at age 32 and return at age 34 at the beginning of the 26-27 regular season is definitely scary. Do I think he'll still be the same productive player as he's always been? 100%. But do I think he'll just be able to carry the Mavericks off an injury that has silenced him for a season and a half? Not in a million years. I was actually debating talking about some trades that could possibly be made, but I think I'll just actually say that for a different series or a different video entirely. One trade that has been speculated on is Dallas dealing with Portland, where the Mavs need a bit more of a potent guard room while Portland desperately needs to clear up that guard rotation. The trade is 1-for-1 PJ for Sharp deal, and I think both sides are definitely benefiting and improving from this deal. I also do like PJ and Clay for Drew if Clay doesn't get bought out, which is why I haven't mentioned him all video because of that assumption. Gafford moves are kind of hard to find since the teams who could use him either don't have the draft capital or that don't have the proper matching contracts. The starting lineup is pretty straightforward outside of some minor changes. My starting lineup is Kyrie, Christie, Flag, PJ Lively, but if you want to swap Flag and PJ or start Gafford over Lively, that's perfectly fine. I personally want to maximize this last year of Lively on his rookie deal to really understand what his newer contract off his rookie deal would look like. But I predict those two will be splitting minutes, so it doesn't really matter that much anyways. The bench is Lil Rhea, or we should say Aldama, Maurice, and Gafford. Yeah, the amount of ball handling on this rotation is kind of bad, and you might be forced to play Caleb Martin in hopes of him playing good enough to stay on the team, or for someone to bite on his production and trade for his contract to get off of your books. Kind of forgot Jay Howard also signed with his team very early into free agency, but I kind of doubt he's getting minutes over Christie, Sasser, Shea, and De La Rhea. Going forward into the 26-27 season, I think it's obvious the Mavericks are trying to be competitive as Charlotte has unprotected access to the first-round pick next year. This roster definitely had its defensive upside but offensive uncertainty at the same time, but nevertheless, this squad is talented just like every roster in the NBA. Over the next 7 seasons, they have 6 first-rounders, 2 being unfavorable swaps, but I don't really see any of those being moved if the Mavs don't get any first-rounders and compensation for the veteran talent. What I can confidently say is certain is that Cooper Flag is a superstar and someone who has potential to be an all-star next season depending on how many shots he's asked to take with the amount of guys Max Power to get minutes to. The usage splits could get tricky due to the amount of guys contributing to consistently putting points on the board, whether that's from creating plays, connecting them, or finishing them. I wouldn't call myself a Mavericks fan by any means, but if I was forced to root for the Kyrie Flag duo in the second full season of the post-Luka era in Dallas, you definitely wouldn't hear a single complaint from me.
Turnover by the Pels. Nice. Ahead to Flag. It's a Flag plant in New Orleans.
And then next time down, he's like, I'll just do this myself. Woo, good stuff.